Welcome to the Bookish Introverts Podcast. Join host Amazon bestselling author Brett Nelson and avid reader Melanie Dyer as they dive in to review books they've read, then chat with the amazing authors behind them. Quiet minds, big bookshelves. You don't want to miss it.
Hey everyone, it's Brett, and we are back with another book talk. And today I'm so excited to have a fellow author on the podcast with me. Now, for those of you who listened to the last episode, he'll be a little bit familiar to you. He wrote the book that we discussed last time. It's called Silent Altitudes. So, Michael James Emberger, welcome to the podcast. Come in and say hi to everyone.
Oh, hello. Thank you.
I think the first thing we'll do is give everyone just a little bit of a bio. You write to help raise awareness about sexual assault, abuse, and other violence against women, to encourage survivors of these crimes, and to ask others to care and get involved as allies and advocates. He's an avid mountain hiker, and he loves solar car racing. He graduated from the engineering program at Messiah College, what I think is now Messiah University, where he met his wife on the solar car racing team. They live in a 1776 colonial farmhouse surrounded by the remnants of a once thriving apple orchard. So sounds like you got a little bit of an adventure streak in you, my friend.
Somewhat, yeah.
Somewhat, yeah. So tell us a little bit about your mountain hiking. Where have you hiked? What do you like to do?
Oh, I mean, that's just an interest that I always have kind of enjoyed. We live near Mount Monadnock in New Hampshire, and then up in the White Mountains, Mount Washington, and some of the other peaks around there. I've just had some great hikes, great views and experiences. So, having kids and everything, we don't get quite the time to get up there like we used to. But
you kind of have to be responsible. You kind of have to be responsible and make sure you're alive for the kids, right?
Yep. And just the time of it, a 3-hour drive up and back and everything. So. The hiking plays a role into this book. So.
Oh, it definitely does. Yeah. So are there any other mountains that you kind of aspire to, or are you just like, I'm just happy with the ones that are just here local?
Yeah, I'm pretty happy with what's around.
The movie Everest, I don't know if you ever saw that, but when that first came out, I was obsessed with that movie. And I always thought one of these days I'm going to hike Mount Everest. And I have since come to the conclusion that I am too much of a wuss to ever attempt anything like that. So, of course, we don't live in an area that has mountains, so I will never, probably won't ever get to enjoy the pleasure of a mountain. But that was fun to know that about you. Also, you are into solar car racing, so I'm guessing that's just cars that run on solar energy rather than gas.
Like when I was little, I grew up around the college. My dad was a professor there, and one of the students took me in one night to see the car that his team was doing for, I think, the 1995 race. And so I thought, oh, this is great. I want to do this someday. And so I went to when I got to college, I joined the team. My wife did the next year, met her there. And we completed the American Solar Challenge, Chicago to Los Angeles. So with just a real narrow little car with solar cells on it, and I drove the chase van behind it. It was an amazing experience.
Oh, fun. Another thing I kind of wanted to hit on was your passion to raise awareness for women that are in abusive relationships. I think that's such a great passion. So tell us a little bit about how did you get interested in that?
That is quite a story. I think I emailed to you that it was interesting that you contacted me about this book, because it was kind of a pivotal moment in my journey as an author, where because I was on Twitter and getting involved with the writing community, somebody followed me just out of the blue, a fellow writer. It was around the time I was working on this book, Silent Altitudes. And she turned out to be a survivor of sexual assault. And I didn't know who she was, but I read something she'd written, and I thought, wow, this is just heartbreaking. And God was like, reach out to this woman, say something encouraging. And I had written some things in the author's notes at the end of this book. And so I sent her a portion of that, and the conversation went from there, and it pulled me into being an ally and an advocate. I've written 4 books on that topic over the last 5+ years. So it's just been an amazing experience to get into that and have my eyes opened really to like a world of trauma and pain that's all around us.
I've never really dealt with things like that, but it's such a heartbreaking experience to think that there are fellow humans out there that fall into traps like that. So I like
Mhm.
that you're passionate about that. So okay, so I think we'll get into the book a little bit here. Before we do, though, I want to kind of just let readers know that the book we are discussing today has a topic of climate crisis, climate change. Which, if you ever watch the news, literally ever, you know that this can be sort of a hot button topic for some people in our political climate. So Michael and I may be discussing, as it relates to the book, those issues. But I just want listeners to understand that we are not trying to offend anyone. We are not trying to push an agenda on anyone. We're not trying to browbeat anyone to thinking this or that. I found a really good book that I like, and I wanted to bring a great author on to talk about it. So that was my purpose. That's our purpose here. We just want to have fun. So if we say anything that offends anyone or that doesn't align with what you believe, just know that that's not our intention. We just hope that listeners will find this book entertaining, and maybe we'll say something that you find entertaining too. So again, the book is called Silent Altitudes. So first of all, what made you choose to write a book about climate crisis? I find that very interesting.
Yeah. It was kind of in line with my earlier style of writing, which was find some kind of issue that's really divisive, really popular in the news, everyone's
Uh-huh.
talking about and has different opinions, and then
Yeah.
write a story that's set against that, but has people that have all their own motivations and very different plot and outcome than you might expect. So it was really just what can I come up with that's controversial and makes for a good story
Yeah.
backdrop.
Yeah, and those are my favorite kind of books. I found your book on Christian book distributors, and it intrigued me right away because I don't think I've ever read a book that dealt with the theme of climate crisis or climate change. And uh, at first, it was one of those things where I kind of had the tug of war because
It's
I
okay
was
here.
really interested in it, but on the other hand, I was just like, I'm not really sure. I was a little bit hesitant at first because when you read stuff like that, you don't always know what their approach is going to be, what their perspective is going to be. But then I thought, that's part of the fun of a book, introducing yourself to maybe things that are different than the way you think or whatever. So that's actually how I decided to pick up the book. And so, and it was really good. I really enjoyed it. Let's go back a little bit in your writing career before we go into that. So, tell us about the first time you wrote a book. It's very ambitious to write a book for the first time. Did you set out to write a book? What was the first book you wrote? Kind of give us a little bit of background on that.
Sure. There was a number of years where I just thought it would be awesome to write a novel, but that seemed like
Yeah.
almost an impossible feat. Like I didn't know how anyone could
Yeah.
do it. So
Yeah.
it just remained kind of a dream for a while, and then it was, I think, over about 12 years ago. The
Hmm.
inspiration just hit me one day. My dad had been a professor at the college back in the 90s, like early 90s. He took some trips down to Costa Rica and other Central American countries with a group of students, and it just went horribly wrong, like technically, logistically, landslides and breakdowns of vehicles and everything. So I had
Oh
that, and
my.
then I came up with another idea from one of my relatives and just put it into this GMO conspiracy, Central American world domination type of story. And I wrote that, you bring the coffee, I'll save the world.
No.
Um, it just sort of all came together. Wrote it really fast. Every waking moment I spent on it, and
Yeah.
and then after that, I took a little break. I did my book, and then I had another idea, a just crazy book about a guy that loses his job, drives up to New Hampshire aimlessly, ends up lying about who he is, gets confused with a famous author and anarchist and really controversial figure, and that just goes into a world of problems for him. So that book was Frosties and Falsehoods. And then the next one I did was this one, Silent Altitudes. So I kind of went on
Oh,
that same
okay.
science conspiracy theme, and
Yeah.
just have kept going from there.
Oh, okay. Is that the kind of books that you gravitate toward? Do you like the conspiracy theory and stuff like that?
I did. I like different types of books and writing. I always liked growing up. I liked like Tom Clancy and thrillers and sort of the technical types of things, and
Yeah.
so I think that was a big influence on me.
All right. Now, I don't know if you want to answer this question or not, but I'm really curious to know when it comes to climate crisis, climate change, people tend to rest on one spectrum or the other. They're either, this is total propaganda and there's nothing to it, or they're like, okay, we need to fix the world or we're all going to die. What side of the spectrum do you fit on?
I fit on the I believe the science of it. I believe it's something important that we do need to address. Um,
Yeah.
I'm not like an activist about it, and I think
Hmm.
my purpose, like as you said in the introduction for the book, is I don't want to like poke fun at or try to
Yeah.
convince people in this book. This is a controversial issue. Let's come up with some characters that have normal ideas that everyone we're seeing in the news, and then also things that are out there on either end. And so yeah,
Yeah.
while I believe the science, while it's important to me, I'm not gonna like get all mad at you or try to insult anybody here.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Well, and I will say you did a very good job because again, I wasn't sure what to expect going into it, but I thought you did a really good job. Like there really doesn't browbeat on either side. I felt like you wrote it in a very neutral way. Like there are characters in the book. His name is Roman. He's sort of the head of a militia who is sort of against all the climate control propaganda, so to speak. And I really like the way you wrote that character because in the wrong hands, Roman and his people could have been written as these horrible right wing extremists. So I like that you kind of wrote it in a way that it was very neutral. Was that kind of your intent when you wrote it, or am I just maybe is that just how I understood it?
No, that was definitely the intent. In some cases, I let the characters have the opinions, say the strong
Yeah,
things on topics. But I
yeah,
did want to also have a little bit of that element of people can come together on these things too, like you saw in the story there.
yeah,
And
yeah.
also, they don't always do what you might expect of them.
Yeah, absolutely. So tell us a little bit about just sort of about the book. Maybe give us tell us about some of the characters that we might encounter in the book because there are some great characters in there. Can you kind of give the listeners a little bit what to expect?
Sure. So the premise is that the United Nations, a little into the future here, they have this big contest for scientists around the world come up with a plan to solve the problem of climate change and such. And so this doctor from New
Hmm.
Hampshire, Dr. Milford Pennychuck, he has a proposal. It wins. He does a speech and everything, and then over a period of years, the UN goes through the process of building this huge, elaborate system that he designed with nuclear reactors all over the world, thousands and thousands of them, and aerial balloons, like think of it like the Hindenburg type of balloons that are holding up some sort of arrays.
Yeah,
And his plan is to make this like electromagnetic field through the entire atmosphere, covering the globe, to react with things in the atmosphere, bring out the carbon and such over time. But something goes
yeah,
horribly, horribly wrong, and that's where we get into the what the story is about and what all these people are trying to do to save themselves.
yeah,
And
yeah.
so I think
So
character
what kind
wise, we
of
have him. Yeah.
characters? Yeah, yeah.
So yeah, we have
You got
Dr.
Penny Chuck.
Pennychuck.
Yeah.
Yep. His like research assistant, Dr. Laura Pottersmith, and her husband Craig, who
Mhm.
flies helicopters for a living, and their girls. They play a big role as kind of the family element of the story. Um,
Uh-huh.
Catherine Morgreed of Morgreed Industries is the villain. And she's just like the most horrible person. And it's funny because somebody
Yes.
got through the entire book until they realized that Morgreed, her last name is More Greed, like greed, just
Yes.
evil person.
My
So,
co-host and I actually had this discussion during the book discussion, and we wondered because she was kind of driven by greed, and I wondered if her name, if that was sort of a little play on words to her personality.
yes, no, definitely yes. And then another one
Yeah.
is Valentina, and she's sort of my heroine. Somebody who is involved with Catherine from early on, gets involved with Penny Chuck and this whole system and the building of it. And she's a pretty tough character, and but hopefully people will get to know her a little better.
I'm kind of wondering, like when you find yourself out, do you go out and do book signings or anything like that? Like when you find yourself kind of out and about and people are asking about your book or picking it up and look at it, what kind of reaction do you get? And the reason I ask that is because I've got a book that I wrote, a series. It's the War Song series, and it's spiritual warfare. And when I mention spiritual warfare, and I write Christian fiction, and when I say spiritual warfare, people like drop the book like it's 1,000 degrees. People are so nervous about spiritual warfare, and I'm wondering if you get any sort of the same reaction when you say climate crisis.
I haven't I don't really get into the book signings and things like that much, so I think more just talking to people in person and such is where I get those reactions. And I think more so they're just interested in what is that about? What's the story? A lot of
Yeah,
people you may know as an
yeah.
author, the people you know best are the ones who don't really care about the fact that you're writing anything. And so the first question is, oh, are you
Oh,
working
for
on something
sure.
next? So, yeah,
Yeah,
so no,
yeah,
I don't, I
yeah.
would say it hasn't
That I
been a
think
big
that
issue.
was. Oh, it has. Okay. Yeah, I would say as a writer, that's probably one of the most shocking things about being an author is the people that I know, most of them who are like, "Oh, yay, proud of you," but they couldn't care less. So,
Hmm.
but that's all right. There's a whole bunch of people out there that do enjoy reading, so we'll reach out to them. I don't know if this is just my viewpoint of things or if there's actually any validity to this, but it seems like, at least people in our circle, there are so many Christians today who seem to think Christians shouldn't get involved in things that are political in nature, such as climate crisis and climate control. Do you think Christians should stay out of that, or do you think we should be more involved? Do you have like a viewpoint on that?
I think it depends on the issue. I definitely think Christians should be involved in the ways that we can. I think where Christians get into trouble often is where we use, interpretations of like a handful of verses or a single passage to try to inform, the world on science or how things should be on something.
Hmm.
And there's a lot of disagreement, and
Yeah.
that gets us in trouble. I think more than just being involved.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I'm kind of mixed on it. I kind of feel like, regardless of what it is, I feel like Christians should be involved in it. But I think it's how you get involved in it, which I think is basically kind of what you said. Sometimes you have to approach things with a little bit of sensitivity and with a little bit of a soft touch. But like sometimes I feel like Christians really should get involved with things because if we don't and the secular world does, we're really going to be in trouble. So
Hmm.
yeah, tell me, how did you come across the system that they use sort of bring about the end to this climate crisis? How did you come up with that system? Is that something that's sort of kind of out there and you just built on it, or was that totally out of your imagination?
Probably a combination of that. Every book comes together in different ways, like outlining what's the story and filling in the details. So for this one, it was researching, what are the methods that are proposed? What are some of the crazy ideas that are out there? Kind of picking something that makes use of that, and then some technologies that maybe are in their infancy, like the types of reactors they were using in the book. There have been some experiments with
Yeah.
little things that are like that, but just assuming that, oh, let's take
Yeah.
that on a grand scale of something huge and not detailing things to the level that
Yeah.
it's very specific. So you have to provide your imagination for what exactly this works like and how does it look.
Which I liked because nobody wants to read a technical manual in their fiction. So it was very interesting the way you wrote it. You know, you could envision it, but it didn't get mired down in that. So, but my co-host and I, sort of after we got done with discussing the book, we kind of had that little discussion about, I wonder how realistic this system actually is, or like if this is just something that he totally made up. I said, we will find out.
Yeah, and conceivably they could make something like that.
What are the chances? What do you think the chances are that things could progress to the point that something like that's actually necessary?
That they would make a system like that.
Yeah, or anything comparable to it. Just any drastic move to have to
Mhm.
change the direction that the world's going. Do you think that's ever going to happen?
I think politically unlikely. I'd kind of see us just running into
Mm.
huge problems and catastrophe, and nobody ever agreeing on anything.
Yeah, and I know you probably don't consider you're an expert on that. I just thought
Mhm.
it would be fun to see what you
Mhm.
thought about that. So as readers read this book, what do you hope they take away from it?
I think the human aspect is sort of more my angle, where anybody that's working on these things in politics, in leadership positions or influence, like where are they coming from? What are their motivations? Why do they want what they want? That was what
Mhm.
was more interesting to me for the story, and I think what people need to think about a little more.
And I think you hit on that really well. So I'm just saying to the listeners, if this doesn't sound like a book that you think would be interesting, you ought to check it out because it really it kind of makes you think about things, but in a fun sort of way. Again, it's not a politically charged book. I mean, they're just by the nature of the themes, you're going to have a little bit of politics in it, but really it's not a political book. It's just a good fun adventure read. I think everybody ought to read it, so go out and
I
get
think so.
it. Yeah, absolutely. That's our hope as authors, isn't it?
Mhm.
We're going to start wrapping this up, but just to give readers a little bit more insight into you, what are you reading right now?
Reading nothing at the moment. I just
Okay.
wrapped up editing not too long ago on a friend's book, and that has
Oh,
to do
okay.
with topic of suicide and the theme of like checking in with people, make sure they're okay. So
Yeah.
that was quite an emotional process to get involved with.
Oh,
And then I
yeah.
just about a week ago I released my latest book, called Daughter of the King, and that's on that whole topic of the assault and abuse and things. But
Oh, okay.
I have almost 50 people who are involved with that, writing letters, right, contributing thoughts. What would they want their younger selves to hear to help
Hmm.
prepare for this world and give encouragement and hope, and so that was an amazing process to write that.
Is that fiction or is that nonfiction?
That's nonfiction.
It's nonfiction. Okay, love that.
Mhm.
What are you working on now? What's coming next?
Now just getting that book out, sharing it, promoting, getting people to hopefully read it and share it with everyone else and reach the world
Oh,
with
okay.
something hopeful.
Yeah, absolutely. That's always the hope. Who are your favorite authors?
Mm. Uh, well,
And
other than
that
my
could
own writing,
change.
obviously.
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Uh,
Let's see, going back, I mean, things I read a lot of years ago were, like you mentioned, Clive Cussler. I liked a lot of his books for the fun science, the way he would come up with something a little different than what was historically real, just kind of
yeah,
going beyond. Yeah, and then just quite a variety of things. These last several years, I've read a lot of things that have been from survivors, on the themes of assault, abuse, and such. So
oh,
some of those
okay.
being well-known authors, some not so much, but a lot of
Yeah,
friends who are
yeah.
writers, being involved with their work.
One of my favorite things to read is, of course, I enjoy, reading the famous authors that everybody's heard about, but I really have a passion for reading unknown authors' work. And I always tell people, you're missing out on such good books if you only focus on the famous authors. I always love checking out books that nobody's ever heard of. So before we get off here, can you sort of tell people if they want to look up you online, if they want to go to your website, or if they want to follow you on social media, where can they go to find you and follow you?
Sure. My website is michaeljamsemberger.com. Pretty simple. I do have links on there to like my Facebook, my Instagram. Really not active on Twitter anymore for the last year or two, but yeah, my website tends to have the most up to date. What books do I have? Where can you get them?
Oh, go check out his website. I've been on there a couple times preparing for the podcast, so he's got a fun little website. We are going to jump off here. We appreciate you, Michael, for coming on. Listeners, we appreciate you for coming in and listening to this. And again, go out and pick up his book. It's called Silent Altitudes by Michael James Emberger. You won't regret it. So everyone, thanks for listening, and we'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.
Thanks for joining us on the Bookish Introverts podcast, where together we explore the worlds within the pages. Until next time, stay bookish.